This is Athletes as Educators with former pro basketball player, championship winning coach, and author Angela R. Lewis. Angie Lewis interviews current and former athletes who are passionate about sharing the lessons they've learned and the experiences that have shaped their lives. A resource for parents, a guide for student athletes, a source for current and former athletes, keys to transition off the court. Welcome to the Athletes as Educators podcast with Angela R. Lewis.
Welcome to this episode today. I'm very excited about my guests. We have Bradley Beal from St. Louis, played at Chaminade, played for the University of Florida, and now is a guard for the Washington Wizards. Brad, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. How are you?
I am well, very well. We have some exciting news coming up from your end. You've agreed to support and partner with the St. Louis Eagles, who will now be Bradley Beal Elite for their high school team. How did this come about, and what are your feelings about this change?
For one, I'm thrilled and excited about it. And it kind of came about with my old coaches who were still around after I left. You know, they kind of just threw the idea at me, like, you should take over the organization a little bit, because they're starting to get a little older, and now they're kind of getting out of basketball a little bit, and now they want to kind of pass the torch along. And I figured, me being a young guy and me loving ball and how much that the organization has meant to me growing up and coming up, I figured it was a great opportunity for me to just give back and to really be involved with it and to be able to take over with it, because I feel like if my name is a part of it, if my face is a part of it, that draws more kids, that draws more attention, and it gets me to be able to be an impact in these kids' lives, around the area, and just continue to push them to be where I am.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that the organization had a great impact on you. Can you tell me about some of your best memories or some really distinct ways that the Eagles have had an impact on your life?
I think the biggest thing is just how to mature and be a man. It's a brotherhood at the end of the day. You travel on these trips, and all you have is your coaches, your teammates, and maybe a few parents who are able to travel. So the bond is always being created within your teammates and within, being around the coaches and the older adults. So, they kind of force you to mature, off the floor, and it tells you how to be responsible, teaches you how to be responsible, be mature young adults, and they hold us accountable for things, and then on the floor, it was just the highest level of basketball, at the time. During AAU basketball is the most fun basketball on earth, and you play against some of the greatest ranked kids around the country, and you get the highest exposure. So it was a win-win for both.
Yeah, absolutely. I know they're really excited and love the work that they're doing with young men. As I mentioned to you earlier, my brothers played with the Eagles 20 years ago, and the same guys, Coach Golden, Coach Pierce, Rich Gray, Vince Estrada, those same guys are there supporting players. Will you talk a little bit about the challenges young athletes face these days dealing with the pressure of performing, and some advice you have for them?
It's always going to be pressure, but I think the more kids worry about that, the tougher they make it on themselves. And I think that this game of basketball and AAU period should just be about fun. You play against some of the toughest kids in the world, some of the best competition. Yeah, it's tough to pick a team. It's tough to decide if you really want to go the route with AAU ball. But, at the end of the day, it's been proven history and proven success with the organization and with our group. We have some of the best coaches in the area, some of the best. We have pro athletes. We got guys who go out and get high-paying jobs and outside of ball and who are very successful men in this world. So, it's just a big family at the end of the day, and it's always going to be outside pressures and different pressures kids may put on themselves. But, I want it to be an organization where it's family first. And, we worry about everybody getting to school, getting kids to D1 schools and being able to play ball and get them away from all the crazy outside things.
Mm-hmm. So how can players stay focused more? You mentioned the family, so having people around you helps. What are some other ways that the young people can stay focused as they're pursuing their goals?
I think with me being around them more, I think it'll definitely have an effect and an influence on kids, just from my example of just being in the NBA, and just showing my love and care for them, and the fact that I'm here with you guys trying to teach and help you guys with the game of basketball. I think that in itself means a lot. to some of the kids. But then on the same level, you know, it's also a desire, you know, and it's something that I kind of want to teach and focus and really try to help kids. You know, I want to try to prepare them for college, not just for high school ball, and not just being content with where they are skill-wise and mentally at this level. You know, I want to push them to be able to comprehend and focus at college level and be able to understand plays and concepts and life as you get older. You know, things on and off the floor that they may experience, you know, with family, with friends, and with things that come along the journey. You know, so just being able to provide that type of mentorship, I think we'll be able to help them focus and just give them a sense of confidence, you know, because life isn't going to be easy for them, for none of the kids as they continue to grow. But I think at the end of the day, just focus in itself comes within yourself, being mentally tough. But I think that's something that you can also preach and try to push kids to be able to be stronger at as well.
You know, like you mentioned, you went through the whole process, right? So having someone who went through the process makes a difference when they speak to you about the process. With the college recruiting, what's some advice you have for young athletes who are going through it right now? What are some things you wanted to help these young men and young women on the other side with the Eagles understand about this process and how to best prepare?
The number one thing that helped me out was for one, take your time. Take your time, because a lot of kids, men and women, boys and girls, they rush into their decision or they make a decision based off of their parents or based off somebody else. You know, I would say, one, take your time, and then two, make a decision for you, you know, because you have to think about it. You're going to that school for 4 years, you know, regardless of how talented you may be, regardless if people may say you're a one and done, you're entitled to that school for 4 years. So you have to go in with the mindset that this is a place that I'm going to be, this is a place that I'm going to enjoy. So I always say, just enjoy the process, take each visit, every visit that you want, and really reflect, you know, really place your heart on the place and where you feel comfortable at, where you can develop a coach with a great relationship and have with them and go from there, you know, because I think that's probably the most important key, to make sure the decision is for you.
Yeah. Taking the time to understand the process, understand the school, understand what's important to you will help you make the best decision for you. Now, who are those people who are in your life that helped guide you? We know that no one makes it wherever they are alone. Who are your mentors, your guides?
I have a real tight circle. So me growing up, it was always my family. My mother and father are still married and together. I have 4 brothers. I have 2 older, 2 younger. So my 2 older brothers, they went through this process before I did. So I kind of gained a lot of experience from them. You know, although they went the football route, you know, still similar in a sense. So I gained it from them. And then, of course, my coaches with the Eagles, you know, from their success and their experiences with helping kids get to college, with their development as players, you know, on the floor. It was kind of a no-brainer for me to be able to go to them for advice, you know, because they've been through it. They've put kids into colleges who've made it into the league and who are super successful now. So, you know, it was just a great situation for myself, you know, and a blessing in itself to be able to have such a close and tight-knit circle.
Yeah, having those people in your corner is essential, especially when you're dealing with so many different pressures and people trying to guide you in one way or the other.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, because everybody has an opinion, you know, and everybody feels as though their opinion should have a huge value, you know. So it's always important to, you know, you have to watch out for who you trust and whose opinion values the most to you. So for me, it was always my family, you know, my blood family, and then my very few friends that I had, and then my AAU coaches.
How did those people help you when you dealt with challenges? I know that you've had some injury, and I'm sure there are other challenges that you faced on your journey. How important was having those people in your corner?
Oh, it's always great, you know. But for one, you know, I'm a God-fearing man, so he was always number one in my life in every challenge that I faced. But just having that family support and that close circle is like no other, because that's a sense of relief. That's a sense of pressure that you can lift off yourself, you know, knowing the fact that regardless of what you may be going through, regardless of how bad you may be playing or how tough of a decision it may be, your family is still your family. Your brothers are always going to be your brothers. You know, that'll never change. Your mom's still going to be your mom, regardless of how old you get or regardless of where you are in your life. You know, those things won't ever change, and I think that's something that's a huge burden. I mean, that's a huge burden lifted off of us in the fact of knowing that we have a great support system and people who always have our back no matter what.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. Let's talk a little bit about your interest outside of basketball, right? So what are some things that you do when you're not playing ball, when you're not practicing?
I'm not playing ball and practicing. I'm really active. You know, I do community work. That's something that I really enjoy doing, and it's something I kind of want to implement into our guys as well and get them involved in some things around the area. Well, for the kids who are in town anyway. And me, I'm still a kid. I'm still young. I'm still do some of the stuff that people do, play video games, hang out, go to movies. So I'm real laid back and chill, just like I'm still in high school almost.
A lot of times, young athletes have a tendency to only see themselves as one person, only one way. And so having that balance of understanding that there's more aspects of your identity is really important.
For sure. And I think the biggest thing is knowing that we're human beings at the end of the day. You know, we're still people, you know, regardless of our status, regardless if we play ball or not. We're still human beings. We still have feelings. We still put our pants on just the same way another civilian would. So I think it's always important in knowing that basketball won't last forever. And you have to understand that there's life outside of basketball. There's things that you're going to face outside of basketball. You know, basketball is sometimes people use it as a getaway. People use it because they're super talented at it, and they've been blessed with great talent to do so. But at the end of the day, we're still people. You know, we still live lives. We still have life outside of ball. So it's important to know the factor and the difference between the two and how one can affect the other, and vice versa.
You know, sometimes people forget that when they're fans and they put athletes, as we talked about before we started the interview, on this pedestal and treat them in some ways as gods, right? And we forget that people are human.
Most definitely, and I think that affects a lot of young guys, you know, at a young age. You know, people, you know, especially not you specifically, but media in general, like, you know, they put people on pedestals. You know, they tell them how good they are, and it kind of sticks with them, and it kind of gives everybody this sense of cockiness, and you kind of just view yourself as, I'm just strictly a basketball player, and it's kind of, and it's bad, and that's not a good way to think, because you're more than just a basketball player. You're a man, you're a female, you're a woman, whoever you may be, and you have great importance outside of basketball, and that's something that's definitely important to hold on to.
Hearing it from you it sounds very different than hearing it from maybe their coach who hasn't played at the level that you've played.
For sure, and that's something that even as is naturally for a kid. Like, if a kid doesn't even listen to their mom, but they hear from their friend, they're going to do it. So it's kind of the same thing, and that's something that's another reason why I kind of want to get more involved with the program as well, is because I can see the interaction. I can just see the attention to detail. Like, whenever I would just be around, or whenever I would just speak to them, just how alert they were and how locked in kids would be, and that kind of motivated me in itself, and just knowing how we do still have hungry kids in the area. We have kids who want to be successful. We have kids who really want to work hard and be great. So, you know, that just kind of really boosted me in itself, gave me some confidence in knowing that, you know, basketball is still alive in the area, and we can really do something with the kids that we have, and really push them to continue to be great in all aspects.
You're absolutely right. There are kids who love it, who absolutely love it. And I think the culture of the Eagles / Bradley Beal Elite is one of, you're going to come in and work, and you're going to learn what it takes to compete at a high level, but still represent yourself and the organization well.
For sure.
Now, we know that there's a difference when we talk about playing average high school ball, playing NIKE EYBL, and then going from that to college. What are some things that you want young people to know, those who have aspirations and the work ethic and the talent? What does it take to make it at the professional level in the NBA?
Well, number one, it's not easy. I mean, as cliche as it may sound, you know, it's true in itself. It's not easy. You know, it's only 400 jobs out of millions of people who play the game of basketball, so everybody's fighting and competing on a daily basis to make it. And at the end of the day, it's a business. As you get older, you realize that, once you get to the NBA, you play for monetary reasons and also for your love and passion for the game. But you play it now it's like your job, and you have to treat it as your job. And if you don't, you can get fired, in a heartbeat. So it's kind of like you're in the natural world, but there's better perks to it in a sense. So same time, it's definitely, it's a long journey. It's definitely not easy, but I always say that it's achievable if you want it. If you want it bad enough, and if you dedicate, the time and the effort and everything that it takes into being a professional. It's always possible. Because I always feel like if I can make it, if several other kids from St. Louis who dreamt of it can make it, then it's possible. But you have to be able to put yourself in a great situation and take advantage of all things that you come across, and when it comes to ball, and just take care of business and work your tail off, and the rest will take care of itself.
Can you give the young kids who are going to listen to this a behind the scenes of what like your last week was like? You had 3 games, you traveled, like your day to day on some of your days, so they can get an insight of what when you say it's not easy, what that means.
Oh man, it's tough. The biggest thing I can even just mention from last night, like we just had a game in Orlando, and we had to fly home that evening and play the Spurs the next day. So we don't get back to DC until about 3 a.m. and we have to wake up and be able to be ready for a game the next day. So just being able to withstand like all the travel, all the the media, the practices, the 82 games like that. Those are a lot of games. In high school and AAU and even college, you're playing 20 to 30 games. Just think about the NBA. That's multiplied by 2 to 3 times. In itself, not including preseason or even the postseason. So you're potentially playing 100 games, which is going to be, it's a huge stretch to your body. And as you get older, you'll realize how important health becomes, taking care of your body, eating the right food, your diet, and lifting weights, exercise, and everything that comes along with it. Everything becomes important. Things that you didn't think were so that much of a big of a deal, in high school become of great significance in the pros. So it's just a matter of just staying the course and being locked in and really doing what it takes to be a true professional.
With those 82 games, how do you take care of your body? Like, how do you stay healthy in addition to eating right? Do you have like a recovery regimen?
Yeah, we do. And, we have great coaches and we have great trainers and PT guys who job of helping us with our recovery, everything that you can name of in the recovery sense that we need, and we utilize it all, because that's your moneymaker at the end of the day, your body, and you have to take care of that. If your body's not good, you can't be on the floor. If you're not on the floor, you won't be able to showcase your talent. So, your body's your moneymaker, is your bread and butter, and you got to take care of it.
Absolutely. A lot of times players will want to play at that level, and then you ask them what it takes, and they'll say hard work. It takes hard work.
Uh-huh.
Can you define what hard work looks like?
Hard work is working yourself to exhaustion. It's not necessarily how many hours you put into the gym, but it's the quality of work that you're putting in. Are you always going full speed? Is everything game speed in your workout? Are you really pushing yourself to the max, to the point that you're tired and you can't work out anymore, So it's all people always, kind of get it misconstrued of how many hours you should spend in a day, but it's not necessarily about that. You can get good work in 45 minutes and that can be it, but as long as the quality of your work is good, as long as you're taking shots that you would take in a game and not chucking shots up from half court, or working on your ball handling versus doing something that you shouldn't be doing. So it's just a matter of really, that's where the focus comes in. That's where the self-discipline comes in into how good do you really want to be. If that's your dream of getting to the NBA, those small things really add up, and those small things are what matters the most, because days that you don't want to do that, or days that you feel like you're too cool to do it, that's kind of what holds you back from being successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Brad, thank you so much for joining me. What do you want your legacy to be? Whether it's with the Eagles, professionally, as a person, what do you want, when people think of Bradley Beal, what do you want them to think?
That's crazy. You know, I've never really had to answer that question, but I think I just want to be somebody who was humble and who helped. You know, I want to be known obviously as a great basketball player and one of the best to come out of the city of St. Louis. But you know, ultimately, my legacy here, I just want to be somebody who helped the next guy. You know, who was always willing to lend a helping hand, who was always willing to teach, also willing to learn, and just be there for people. You know, because I've been blessed to be in a situation by people who've helped me get here, and it's kind of like I want to return that favor. Yeah. You know, I want to be able to help people. I want to see other people from my city and from my area have the same success that I did, or have the same opportunity of success that I did. You know, and I want to work hard and do whatever I can in my power to be able to help them achieve their goal as well.
Someone who was humble and who helped. I love that. Brad, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. If people want to connect with you on social media, like how can they follow you and find you?
I have a Twitter at RealDealBeal23, and I have an Instagram at Beal3. And I'm interactive with fans, so they can just hit me up if they want to, and I'll shoot them back.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll put your Twitter handle and your Instagram handle in the show notes so people can see it.
Sounds good.
Cool. Thanks, Brad. I look forward to working with you next summer.
Sounds great. See you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
This is Athletes as Educators.
Thank you for listening to the Athletes as Educators podcast. Connect with me through the Athletes as Educators Facebook page or at Athletes Educate on Instagram. Be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode, and go over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. For more resources and information about today's podcast, you can check us out at AngelaRLewis.com.